who is my senator representing me in the Delta Central Senatorial District, Obarisi Obioma Agege, all principal officers of this great Senate, my senators from my states, great gentlemen that I know, distinguished Senator Peter Womboshi and distinguished Senator James Manager, and all distinguished senators. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. My name is Festus Egwarewa Adeniyi Keyamo. My father is from Delta State, and my mother is from Ogun State, so I have a pan-Nigerian view. I want to first of all give God all the glory, give God all the adoration and all the praise for making it possible for me to stand before you here today. The fact that I'm standing before you here today, if I look at my antecedent and my past and my upbringing, can only be the work of God and not the work of man. And it is God using President Muhammadu Buhari as a pencil in his hands to make it possible for me to be here today. And I give God all the glory for that. Distinguished senators, the story of my life, since I left university about 2.5 decades ago, and I was called to the bar, and I'm sure as you all know, has been one that has been totally dedicated to the crusade for social justice using the instrumentality of the law. I have used the instrumentality of the law at all stages of my life to fight for social justice, to fight for human rights, to fight for accountable governments, and to promote and entrench democracy. And about 10 years ago, I took this further by even accepting to serve as a lead prosecutor to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. And in that role, I have prosecuted so many high-profile individuals in courts. And so I've been an active prosecutor and a general practitioner of law all these years. In that role as a prosecutor, I have won some of my cases. Like all lawyers, I have lost some of my cases, like all lawyers, and many of them are still in court and on appeal. It is also that passion to entrench democracy that made me some years ago, I went to court to enforce the powers of this National Assembly on my own volition, on my own expense. I fought for this National Assembly in respect of the appointment of service chiefs, on my own. I continuously drew the attention of this Senate and the House of Representatives to their powers regarding the appointment of service chiefs, and the President needed the concurrence of this House. And when they didn't listen to me, I went to court. And in a landmark judgment, I won the case where the court said service chiefs must come and bow before this House before they can be appointed. And after that judgment, all the service chiefs were sacked. New service chiefs were appointed. And since that judgment, all service chiefs have been coming to the National Assembly to get their approval. That is the kind of passion I've had to fight, even for the National Assembly. The passion for human rights have also led me to defend across the country, irrespective of tribe and religion, students who have been detained illegally, civil rights activists, journalists, social crusaders across the country, free of charge. All of this free of charge. And I know many of them listening to me across the country can testify to this. And even though I don't believe in a separatist agenda in this country, I don't believe, but that passion for human rights have also led me to even defend separatist leaders. Apart from their vision, their crusade for separatism, I defended them in respect of their human rights alone. Separatist leaders for even, in respect of organizations like MASOB, like the Biafran Independent Movement, like the Niger Delta People's Volunteer Force, like the MOSOP, many of the separatists, and I got most of them out of detention, free of charge. That has been my passion for human rights, using the instrumentality of the law. And because of all of this, like you see my CV, it earned me the Global Award of Human Rights in 2007 by the United States Global Institute, Global Leadership Council in Washington in 2017. I was conferred with the Global Human Rights Award. I've had the rare privilege to have been brought up and mentored by two or perhaps the strongest characters in this country. And I'm perhaps the only person who have had that privilege. Two of the strongest characters in terms of anti-corruption and human rights. And that is Chief Gani Fawemi, who brought me up, like you see my CV. And of course, President Muhammadu Buhari right now. I am the only person who enjoys that privilege. Two of the strongest characters in this country have mentored me. And so, in the pursuit of all of this, I have asked so many questions of governments in the past. I've asked governments as to how our monies have been used or misused. How public monies have been spent or misspent. And how public monies have been appropriated or misappropriated. But I discovered that there's only so much you can do as a private individual. I discovered that. I didn't get answers. And then, it was then I took a conscious decision some years ago to be part of a political process that could get us into power. I took a conscious decision. Because that conscious decision I took was because I discovered that what you can scream, what you can be screaming on the outside for 10 years to achieve, because you are brimming with ideas, you are brimming with all kinds of solutions to our problems on the outside, and you can be screaming for 10 years, you can achieve that in 10 minutes when you are part of government and part of a political process. Because you see, it is a natural inclination of governments all over the world to see critics on the outside as enemies. So they take your views with a pinch of salt. They see opposition as, it's natural all over the world, as enemies. So I took that conscious decision to be part of a political process. And that was during the formation of the All Progressive Congress, the APC. And I joined the APC in Delta State. I was a foundation member of the APC in Delta State. The first major meeting held in Delta State involving the national leaders that came to Delta State, because we didn't have a government. Delta is a PDP state, and we didn't have a government. That meeting was held in my house, in Efru, in my parlor. And so I can say that the APC was formed in my house in Delta State. It's not a surprise I'm standing here today as a nominee of the APC from that state. It was formed in my house, the APC. And so I discovered that you can change your methodology in the fight for the rights of the people by being part of the process. You can change your methodology without changing your basic principles and your essence as a person. You can do that. And so that is why I decided to serve, to accept to serve. Despite all I have said and all my antecedents, I've decided to serve. I've decided to be part of the process, and with your kind permission, your kind consideration, if you do approve me, I want to be part of the process, and I think I have a lot to prove, and I want to make a change. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, sir.
Distinguished Senator Mike